You are listening to Hard House History with Paul Glazby.
Jon the Dentist, welcome to Hard House History. And this is pretty, in terms of Hard House history, you and a handful of other people are probably right at the beginning of that whole thing. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation. But yeah, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah. As you can see, busy trying to get to grips with the new Omnisphere. Actually, you can't see because the screen went. There you go. I'm literally, what I'm actually doing right now is I'm actually compiling all the sounds I like for my next project. There are sheets of paper here. I don't know how I'm ever going to, but there we are.
Right. Is that your process? Is that how you...
Yeah, I basically, what I do is if I get a new synth, I mean, Omnisphere is immense, right? So you get a new synth like this, you've got to go through, I don't know, 40,000 sounds, right? And that's literally what I'm doing. I'm going through 40,000 patch sounds. Not that you stay with the patch sound because it's, it's an intuitive synth, but, and then I just kind of list all the sounds I like. And I've got like a note system. Do you want to hear my note system?
Yeah.
I've got ethereal sounds, Depeche Mode sounds, Gary Numan sounds, bassy sounds, and Vangelis sounds. And those are the categories that I work with.
Right. Okay. Excellent. Well, it's funny you said that, Depeche Mode sounds, because I was actually thinking, obviously, knowing that we were chatting today, and I was thinking you and Quinn must be like the Depeche Mode, like what Depeche Mode was to electronic music in the 80s. You guys were to what we now know as hard house.
Well, that's a very complimentary comparison. There's some alliteration for you. That's early in the day for that here. Yeah, it's a very complimentary comparison you paint there. Now that's a picture, but never mind. Because Depeche Mode are like the greatest band walking the earth. So, that's, well, obviously Paul McCartney and Ringo are still there, but in terms of an active band, because the last album was superb. In fact, they released a new song this morning, which was an interesting listen, quite depressing, but there we are. But they're amazing, so to be compared to the greatest band on earth, I'll take that. I'm not sure we really are reaching those dizzy heights, but you never know.
Well, I just mean in terms of, like a pioneer for a sound. That's what I was...
I think that is a fair comparison because I'm still doing it. I still go into making music with a blank sheet of paper or a sheet of paper with loads of preset sounds on it. I go into making a tune with, an open mind. What could happen here, And I think that's really sort of the spirit of late 70s, early 80s electronica, that it was kind of like, we've got these amazing new synths. What can we do with them? And it's all good music. I think is always about experimentation. So it's just luck, really, to be honest. Don't plan for it.
Yeah, you'd be amazed how many people have said that on this podcast.
Yeah,
right place, right time, and things like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, we'll come on to perhaps where it isn't that anymore, but no doubt later in this podcast.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so your new stuff, I wanted to talk about that later. But in terms of the people are going to get fed up with me saying this because I say it all the time. But
yeah,
I came into a scene that a lot of the people I've spoken to created the scene, and like I said, you guys were right at the beginning of that. Like Amadeus from the Tidy Boys, he credited Baby Doc with being one of the most influential people on the scene. But you guys were like, worked a lot together in those early days. And like, I just wanted to understand, what were you doing? Like he said he was going to trade and he just wanted to make music that he could dance to. Like, is that your sort of motivation? Is that how you got into it, or what was the crack for you?
I mean, I went to trade. It was an interesting place, and I went to trade a lot because it was somewhere that I enjoyed going to. At the end of an evening, if I was DJing somewhere, many a time I'd be DJing halfway across the country till 2 in the morning, and I'd be like, right, I'm driving. Even when I wasn't living in London, I was in Cardiff. I'm like, I'm driving back to London to go to trade. You know, so trade was a big influence on me carrying on clubbing in my 30s. Actually late 20s really, but you know, what I would say is it came quite late in the day for me. I was already doing stuff under a different moniker of DJ Fresh Tracks and working with rest his soul, beautiful friend, HMS Steve Paquette. And we did a lot of early stuff on Jumping and Pumping, and you know, we worked with on that whole sort of breakbeat hardcore scene. So you know, I was already clubbing and doing stuff. So I don't know. No, I don't think I was really influenced by trade. I was more influenced by all the experiences I had, and also really more sort of going over to like Holland really, and Germany rather more than anything in the UK. I think that was how the whole sound started anyway. I'm sure Quinn has relayed this as well, but we basically just sat in the studio, me with a DJ head, even though I was a music writer, but I was more into DJing at the time. It's still really my passion, but he was, you know, he came in it as purely as a musician, and I just said, you know what, there's all this amazing stuff going on in Europe that no one seems to be making it here. You know, it's all just kind of fluffy house music, and you know, and I was like, it would be, you know, hard acid as well, but I just thought, wouldn't it be cool to like get that sort of trance sound of Europe and blend it a bit? You know, I hate that word blend. That's a whole can of worms. But you know, you just kind of mix it with different influences, and you know, I just bought a bunch of records to the studio, and it was just kind of a fusion, really. It was a bit of a hodgepodge of different sounds that I really personally liked as a DJ. Loads of stuff on Heart House, Sven Vars label, and who I'm a huge fan of. And you know, sort of early hard floor, although that was more just sort of acid house. But people like Resistance D were a massive influence on, you know, I was like, I really want to do this. I want to get, because I love 80s music, as anybody that knows me will tell you, you know, I'm a huge Depeche Mode fan, and Japan and bands like that. And so I was kind of like, I want to pull these synths in, and I love this sound that's coming from Europe with synths. You know, no one was really doing it. It had gone in. It was, you know, American house is quite sort of funky. Early stuff was quite electro sounding, but then it sort of gradually drifted into sort of more of an R&B feel, you know. And I love that as well. Don't get me wrong. It's not a criticism. It's just it wasn't really my sort of style of music. And so when I heard trance for the first time, it was like an awakening. You know, and I was like, this is amazing. You know, it's like, I've never heard this music before. I didn't know it existed. I think it was Age of Love was the first one I heard. And I was like, I love the synths. You know, I really love the way they're using synths in this. They've got a Jupiter out. They've got a Juno out. You know, they've got yeah. So, you know, the first sort of trance tune I heard was Age of Love. And I just thought, wow, you know, let's get some synths in it. And we knew a guy who had a studio, Marco Perry, an old friend that I'd done some hardcore with. And I knew from remembering that his studio had all these synths that I'd never touched, because I'd literally gone in there and used an 808 and a 303 and an Akai sampler, right? And I was like, oh, he's got a load of synths. So we went into the Beat Farm studio, and that's where it all started, really, just playing with synths and playing with beats and just sort of mashing it all together. Yeah. Not really a plan as such. I don't think anybody really invents a genre of music, because you know, a musician just sort of borrows ideas or develops them. You know, who are the pioneers? The pioneers are the Beatles, right? You know, if you want to go back to where, or maybe like Pink Floyd, you know, where music changes direction, you know, massively from rock and roll to modern music. It's the Beatles, it's Pink Floyd, and everything after that, in my opinion, is a derivative.
Yeah, I guess it's yeah. I mean, I guess everyone's got an opinion on you know, that's been a I guess an interesting thing. I was talking to I don't even know if you would know who Madders is. He was the promoter for Sunday Essential.
Yes.
And yeah, so he was on a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying about how in the early 2000s, or pretty much around 2000, that his club started being known as a hard house club, whereas it had always been just an experience up to that point. But everything's kind of got more compartmentalized.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I guess when that happens, and then people lay claim to, being like Tony DeVee would be, like a hard house pioneer that most people would kind of look to. But then it's interesting because Amadeus was then saying, well, Tony would hear Baby Doc stuff and then try and emulate that, and then get it a bit wrong, but then add his
More
own
accurately,
sound.
Baby Doc and the Dentist. I'll have some credit for that.
Yeah.
because Amo said that to me as well, because when we were recording in the Beat Farm, and we had our initial sort of releases, we were sort of giving them to Tony. And, so he was listening to the stuff that we did right at the beginning. Before there was a Jon the Dentist and a Baby Doc going different ways, he had the stuff that we were doing right at the front. So the influences from, but he would have been influenced by lots of other things as well. I mean, credit where it's due. Tony just didn't appear in the 90s. He was a very, respected sort of club DJ right up until that point. And he just kind of specialized in a type of music at that point, but as I say, everything's a bit of a derivative, so
yeah and then looking back to those earlier days, I mean, I've got a couple of favorites of your stuff, but like, what are your, like when you look back, what are your highlights in terms of stuff that you did?
Do you mean in terms of just Hard House and Baby Doc and the Dentist, or just the whole thing?
Well, I mean, anything. I mean, obviously, the people listening to this are probably going to be more aware of the Hard House or trance stuff. But yeah, I mean, whatever you.
I think when I look back on it, now that I'm 60, I was 60 this year, so now that I'm an old git, officially, I get a bus pass if I could be bothered to apply for it. I live in a rural part of the world where buses are about as useless as chocolate teapots, so there's not really, I'm not. I wish I was still in London, then I'd have like freedom of the world. I'd have like £2,000 worth of travel every year at least. But anyway, lost my train of thought now. Yeah, okay, yeah. So I think when I really look back on it, a lot of us now are like, probably, I'm not a nostalgic person, but you do sort of look back on what you did for like 30 odd years and you think, oh, that's quite a body of work. I mean, it's a lot. I think I was doing something for a Canadian. I used to do this brilliant event in Canada called WEMF, World Electronic Music Festival, and they asked me to do a special, like a podcast, but a recorded one, an audio one, and play sort of, maybe do like a sort of, favorites of that thing. And then I ended up thinking, oh, I think I might do a reflective Jon the Dentist one, which I did and put on my SoundCloud. And
I listened to that. Yeah, because that track that you mentioned earlier, the one with I forgot what you just said, but one of the first things that you did, because that was like you started right at the beginning, didn't you?
Yeah, it was. I put the very first track I made at the beginning, and I think I kind of went back to that, and I was quite reflective of the early stuff I did. And I think if I have real affection, I think it's that stuff. I think it's like finally making a record, making a tune, having a record label release it, and then I mean, I didn't work with Quinn for a very long, even though we're like lifelong friends. We didn't actually have a massive amount of time that we worked together for one reason or another. But with Steve, with HMS, we were friends for years. We worked. I started working with him right at the beginning of it all, and did some really great gigs with him, and went to Mayday with him, and really sort of cut my teeth on getting into the industry with Steve. And so when I look back on it, my real affection is probably for all that breakbeat hardcore stuff we did. It was just such an exciting scene. I was now and again I talk to Billy Bunt. We type talk, and he did the Labyrinth in Dalston back in the early 90s with the breakbeat hardcore stuff, and those are my fondest memories, I think. And if I'm really honest, and I kind of recreated that by going to the Metalheads Club at the Blue Note, which, you know, gave me a similar kind of vibe. I like all that urban breakbeat, and I like drum and bass. Massively love drum and bass. People who know me will tell you that. So I'm a huge fan of drum and bass. So I suppose I look back on this. I probably should have. I know this is a terrible thing to say, but I kind of wish I'd gone down the drum and bass route. If I'm honest, because I think it's a bit more. There's a lot more freedom of your creativity and what you can do with it. You know, you can pull in lots. You can do. I mean, think of like Goldie's Timeless album, right? And Angel and tracks like that. They're just so innovative, and you can listen to them or you can dance to them. They're just magic, right? And there's a lot of that in drum and bass, and I think it's quite hard to do that when your beat is always doom doom doom, you know, and it's 140 BPM. I think it kind of lends itself to only one thing, really. Whereas I think with drum and bass, there's a lot more. It's almost like scoring, which is something that really interests me. So yeah, if I'm going to go back, I'm going to go back to there. But if I'm going to go back to the sort of when I made that switch from breakbeats into 4/4 stuff, I think I would probably go back to the stuff I was doing with Quentin, you know, the Baby Doc and the Dentist stuff. I'm really proud of In Worship of False Idols as an album, and also the one that I did after that on my own called The Pyramid. I think those two, even though the production is sketchy at best now when you listen back to it, you know, what you can do now is incredible. But even though it's sketchy at best, there's something raw and real about them, and honest. So I really like those two projects, and also not being nostalgic, but they do conjure up, you know, that memories of living in London at that time, which was amazing.
Yeah. Well, I think that's true of a lot of things. I've been, I've got a 5-hour set coming up in a couple of weeks in
Blimey, my ears.
When I come back to Sheffield. So I've been going through, you know, like a lot of old tracks, and yeah, that kind of like nostalgic trigger, I guess, when you hear something and it puts you back in a place of,
it does,
you know, like for you in London, or for me, you know, like those early days playing at Insomniacs when, you know, I'd gone from being no one knew who I was to all of a sudden, you know, I was like a known DJ, and just the kind of feelings that brings up. Yeah, so I get exactly where you're coming from. Yeah,
I put on case in point on that mix. I nearly didn't get to do it because I did the first few tracks and then I started playing a couple of tracks I'd done with Steve, and I was broken at that point. I just was like, I could just remember. In fact, just even thinking about it now, just remember that amazing guy, you know, like we went, like he was like your archetypal South London, you know, right? He had the dreadlocks, smoked the ganj, you know, he was like typical Jar Rastafari, just brilliant, right? Loved him to bits. He used to come around my gaff on Sundays, and my mum adored him, you know, and he adored my mum because she'd make these amazing roast dinners, and Steve would come around there. We even put that on one of the records, you know, and thanks to John's mum for the roasts, right? And but my memory with him was when we did Mayday, we finished the event and we had drunk so much, right? And we were in this car going from Westfalenhalle in Dortmund to down to Nuremberg to do this boat party the next day. And so we did this long drive, and we finally get to Nuremberg, and it's like one of these little chalet hotels in the middle of the Bavarian mountains. Picture the scene, if you will, right? And we get in there, and we've arrived quite late in the morning because it was a long drive, right? And we're absolutely wasted, and we're thinking, right, we'll get some water. So we go into the bar, and as we walk into the bar, they've got a beer festival going on, and there's all these white guys with big mustaches, lederhosen, singing Munich beer hall songs. God knows what was in the lyrics, right? And I walk in with like an acid house t-shirt on, right, with something like Getting Smashed on Ease or something. And he comes in, he's got like dreadlocks, sweating because we've been and we walk in, and it was that scene in American Werewolf in London.
Werewolf
The
in
whole
London,
bar
yeah.
just looks at us, you know, and I'm standing there next to him going, Steve, what are we doing, mate? And he's like, we'll style it out. We'll go to the bar, right? So he just walked straight to the bar, ordered a couple of beers. Anyway, we end up 6 hours later, we're still in this bar singing German beer songs with Steins and back slapping these, I don't know. It was ridiculous. So yeah, when I did that mix, that was quite hard because I remembered all those, you know, those days in the studio. I mean, that's where my name comes from. If you know, if you push me on it, and yeah, that was Steve was, he's sorely missed. And the worst thing is, I left London and I was going back to London. I thought, I haven't seen Steve for years, you know, because his DJ career took off, mine did, and we just kind of went in different directions. We never fell out. I've never argued with him once, right? And too easy going he is. Don't know how he didn't fall out with me because I'm a twit. But anyway, so yeah, I thought I'll get a hold of him, and I found out he passed away, and I was just like, this is just not happening. It's surreal, you know. And he would have only been in his late 40s at that point, 40s. So yeah, you know, that's kind of he is my you know, he's my earliest sort of memory really of clubbing and DJing.
Yeah. I have a similar sort of thing when I listened back to the first album that I ever had out was on Tidy Tracks, and towards the end of the mix, there's a track from I don't know if you ever knew R.R. Fierce. Did you know? Did you know Johnny? Yeah. And it's one of his tracks, and then, you know, like that kind of sets me off a little bit when I, you know, because he was, I mean, I only had, God, I would have been introduced to Johnny mid to late 2000, so probably a year that I got to know him. But we used to speak 2 or 3 times a week because he lived down in London, I was up in Sheffield. But yeah, we just got like, because we were just on that same same.
It's hard, isn't it? It is really hard. We're getting older, and it's part of the aging process. You know, it's just hard.
Well, yeah.
You know?
I mean, he was, you know, I think he was probably 32. I think when he died, I was only 20, 23, 24 when he.
Similar thing with Casper Pound as well. That was horrendous. I mean, I didn't know him that well, but I'd done some stuff with Rising High and with Casper, so yeah. That was it's not very nice. So but I can credit Steve with my DJ name because
so how did it, because I'll tell you, someone told me that you were a bit of a hard nut and you used to knock everyone's teeth out. Is that not true?
I don't know where that, I'm as soft as shite. I'm like, I you know what, right? I'll tell you what, let's knock that on the head. I hate violence. I'm one of these people that I was a crusader against football hooliganism, right? Not against particular individuals, but just generally as a thing. I don't like it because it's like, look, you know, we can be tribal with our football teams and have a laugh and sing really funny songs without beating each other up, surely, right? You know, I mean, I love the game. So, and I consciously, as a kid, you know, I grew up supporting 2 teams, Charlton and Arsenal. Both teams don't really have aggro at their football stadium. So it was, you know, it was, when I see it, I'm just, So no, I'm not like that at all, and it didn't come from that. And people say all sorts of things, don't they? You've only got to be in the limelight. It's even worse now for these youngsters who get in the limelight. But it was bad enough back then. You get known for anything at all, and people have got so much to say about you without even really knowing you. I mean, the whole thing came from, I mean, I was DJ Fresh Tracks before. That comes from my sort of like b-boy days, you know, when I was into breaking and popping and I was into electro. Just sounded like a cool DJ name, so I just stuck with it, right? And quite zeitgeisty. But I realised Fresh Tracks sounded a bit naff, so I was like, I can't go to the bank manager and for that DJ Fresh Tracks. So not that Jon the Dentist is any better, but anyway. But so what happened was, my mum wouldn't take me seriously. She's like, why are you going around with a stupid name? I'm like, all right, mum, don't make it worse. I want your roast dinners. So we were in the studio. We used to go to this studio in West London somewhere. I can't remember where it was now. It was this guy called Ronnie, and he was Sri Lankan, and he owned Little Giant Music that we recorded all our stuff on. And he had this little studio set up, and we'd often go there, and we'd bring all the supplies, the drink, the Moroccan woodbines, and I was still Fresh Tracks at this point, and HMS decided. We were hammered. We're in the studio. We're drinking this absolute dire drink called Canai del Bosca, right? Which is this like fortified wine crap, like Thunderbird, that kind of stuff, right?
Right.
So we're drinking this nonsense, right? Because Steve had a sweet tooth, right? A lot of West Indians have got a sweet tooth, but he had a sweet tooth. And anyway, and I was like, oh, you don't want to be drinking this stuff because it's going to rot your teeth. And he was like, he was a bit mad, and he just sat there and he went, oh, look, it's the dentist from Del Bosca, because I have one of these. Right. So I was like, I like that. The dentist from Del Bosca. That's a great idea for a DJ name. And he's like, oh. So that's kind of how it happened. So really, I have to credit Steve with that one as well. And then, of course, was a coincidence and a story that I've told, which isn't really true, which is because Quentin was a doc. I was a dentist, but it didn't really come from there. It came from the dentist from Del Bosca, which was about drinking Canai Bosca and it being sweet.
Right. And, was there a label called Bosca?
Yeah, Boscaland. We actually sat in the studio that night, hammered, just writing all this stuff down, going Boscaland, a nice place to live. All this sort of stuff, right? That's how it came about.
And you know what? I've never. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, we said, and I remember the day really well because we used to eat these. They were like falafels, but from this Turkish kebab place around the corner, right? They were really nice, really hot and spicy. I love hot and spicy food. So we're eating these falafel things and drinking Canai Bosco and then Stella Artois, as Mickey Flanagan says. Stella Artois, going out. Anyway, yeah. So we're sitting there getting hammered on all this stuff, smoking the Moroccan woodbines as you do, and we just schemed the whole thing up on that day, Boscaland. Oh, it's a concept, We'll have the little, and we had this guy, Alex, who we knew did artwork for Little Giant Music. And we said, can we commandeer you to do the Boscaland stuff? So he designed the logo and I lost touch of Alex. He was such a cool guy. I used to go around his flat on Fridays after DJing or clubbing, or we'd go clubbing. And he was like really sort of like one of these kind of Hoxton trendies back in 1990. And we watched Aliens, I think, literally every week, pissed in his living room. This is brilliant. I could quote everything from that movie just from those nights of watching it with him. But yeah, so that's kind of how me and Steve came up with it. We just kind of invented this place, and then we sent the first release to John Peel. And a week later, I've got this message on my answer phone, right? When you had answer phones, and it said, "This is John Peel from the wonderful Radio 1. Could you please phone me on this number, please? Because I'm not really sure what speed I'm supposed to play your record at." Right? So I end up thinking this is a wind up. Someone's doing an impression better than I just did of John Peel. So I thought, well, I'll give it a call anyway. It turns out it was him. And he loved it. And I kept in regular touch with John Peel. He was such a great guy. And he really supported, and put all the Boscalands. I was like, this is mad. This is the guy that introduced me to, like, I don't know. I think he was the first person I heard play Japan. Or maybe it was John Fox, Matematic. He played that. And that got me into electronic music, more or less. And this guy's like phoning me up to play my records. He was a proper DJ, a DJ. That's, that's what he did. So so the whole Boscaland thing, loads of affection for it. The people involved in it, those times as well. It was so bohemian, just having a laugh. I just left working. I used to work in the city, and doing the sort of banking trading stuff, which is, although well paid, is dire. It's boring as hell. And I'd saved a ton of money, and that's when I went, I'm going to go and be a DJ. right? You know, because I'm fed up with this. I don't want to work anymore. I don't want to do a 9 to 5. And all that Boscaland stuff epitomizes, you know, that atmosphere of that period in my life where I was enjoying being a young man.
So you could have just as easily been Jon the Trader or Jon the Banker.
Jon the Banker, yeah. Well, I think some people might use that as Cockney rhyming slang, to be honest. But yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of my favourites of that you were involved in were the Mantra to the Buddha.
Yeah.
And then obviously Global Phase is just incredible. Like, what are your thoughts on that all these years later?
Mantra to the Buddha is you have to credit Quentin with that. He wrote that.
Okay.
I just
you were
helped
involved.
produce it.
All right, because you were credited on it, weren't you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I produced the percussion and you know, mixed it and worked on the arrangement because I got like a DJ head. Obviously, that at the time it wasn't really Quinn's thing, and you know, my thoughts are always like, what's going to work on the dance floor. So I kind of had you know, not that Quinn didn't get involved in that, but yeah, I had a clear direction on it. But I often did all the percussion when we were in the studio. It was pretty much, that was my sort of job. he did. I think that's probably why we ended up breaking up, because it was like, I was a frustrated musician. It's like, but I want to do the music. No, you do the drums. It was kind of like that, you know. So so that one is, Quinn wrote that. It's a beautiful piece of music, and I've tried remixing it, and I just can't find the something that goes with the vocal, and I don't know. It's one of those one-off things. It's just nice in its original format. As for Global Phases, that came about because we used to record in Red Jerry's studio from Huge Tunes. And we used to do stuff for Prolcott, of course, which was the sister label. And what we'd often do is we'd have the studio booked for the day. The engineer would bugger off at 9, and we'd be like, oh, yeah, we'll lock up. And then we'd just do lock-ins, you know, and we'd just be there all night and paste the key back through the door, right? As if we left at 9. And so we recorded a lot of sneaky stuff, which we then ended up putting on our own label, Dream In. Which I'm glad we did in a way, because I got ripped off by Prolcott, so I'm glad that we got that bit of revenge. But Global Phases was one of those. It was one where Quinn had enough. He went home. I was like, oh, I've got a studio to myself. What can I do? I haven't written anything. So, and that was the first real sort of like trance thing that I wrote, really. And it has endured, and I must admit, my favourite iteration of it was one that I got recently, about 4 or 5 years ago, from a Russian producer called A Moon, who records for State of Trance, all the, you know, the big labels. He's really good, but he'd done some stuff for a smaller label that I'd done some recordings for. So I got him before he got famous, and then he did that mix for me, and we put it on Swanda. Roman Messer's Russian label, and I love his interpretation of it. You know, it's like really modern, and I think melodically, I think it is probably one of the strongest things that I've done, because it's. But you know what? I'll be honest with you. Where did I get that idea from? I got that idea from Jones and Stevenson, the first Rebirth. The way that they structured that track. You know, so it's essentially, it's just going up scales and down scales. That's really all it is. You know, it's not particularly complex, but it's effective but I played with the scales a bit. So, you know, because I wasn't really as musically aware as I am now. So it's a bit made up. It's kind of raw, isn't it? But yeah, it's a good track. You know, I don't want to do any more remixes of it now. It's done now, though. I'm just, A Moon did the definitive. It's done.
Well, send me that if you don't mind, because I'd love to hear it. What else was I going? Oh yeah, I was just going to say me and Maddox did a collaboration. Well, it's not quite finished yet, but and it sounds nothing like Global Phases. But what I said to Maddox was I wanted to do something like Global Phases in as much as it's like a crossover track that, you know, I've always played it and Maddox would play it in his sets, but then you'd have, you know, more trancier DJs would play it.
Yeah.
And, you know, like something that kind of is a little bit different than the norm. So that's what we've tried to do. I mean, whether people will still
But
be
that's a
playing this
good thing,
one,
you know, that proves the point there, Paul, that, you know, music is there to be experimented with and played with, and it's, you don't go into a studio. This is why I can't get my head around ghostwriting. You don't go in a studio to get a product as such. You go into a studio to be a musician, to record, to express yourself, to play with ideas. That's the excitement of it. The minute you go, you know, and you get a chart out and you go, I want to do this, this, and this. I know some people do work like that. I did see an interview recently with Goldie works a bit like that, which, you know, and I think, but then I suppose some people, it's, I mean, he is an artist out and out, you know, and an innovator. So this is certainly no critique. It's just some people have a different way of working. But I do think in the end, you've got to go in with open-minded about how you put something together, because it will always, whatever you plan, it will go in different directions. So you should do that. You should try different genres out and try mixing them, and, you know, because you just never know. None of these things ever change. You never get new genres unless somebody is prepared to go, I know I'm paying for the studio time or just the time generally, but you know what the hell, it's better now though, because you can do it all at home. So you're not throwing £500 at something. You know what I mean? Like when we did it, we were like, we'd go in and we'd be like, the clock's ticking and we're paying for this. You know, sometimes the pressure of the clock is, you go, oh, I can't be bothered. Let's just do this. And you go to something formulaic. You know, you don't have to do that anymore because it's free.
Yeah. Well, there is that. And what do you do? I mean, do you do anything other than music? Like, what's your sort of day to day like these days?
Yeah, my funnily enough, I run a tutoring business. So this links to, I gave up DJing in 2003. I just hated it. I hated the scene. I hated the people involved in it. I couldn't stand what super clubs had done to the scene, DJ, Mixmag, all those awful people. You know, just the backslapping, the arse digging. I just had enough. I'd gone to I think it was the World Music Festival or something, with Dance for whatever it is in Miami, Winter Music Conference, that was it, in Miami. And it was just horrible. I was just like, this is vile. This is so far removed from the Shum Club, right? and the revolution of acid house and just a bunch of mates putting nights on. It's so far removed. America had like gone totally corporate on it all. Canada had been ruined by it. Britain was a done deal at that point. You know, Europe hadn't quite been tainted with nonsense like Tomorrowland at that point, but you know, you could see the writing on the wall. And I was like, I've had enough of this. So I walked away. I literally walked away. I've still got the box of records that was the final set I played that I dumped at my mum's and went, I'm done. And I've sold all my vinyl apart from those records, and I've kept them because I consider that the point at which I sort of retired. You know, now it's a music hobby, right? You know, yes, I can do it professionally, but I'm not a full-time professional musician, right? So that box of records is still with my mum. And so I ended up doing a teaching degree because I kind of sat there and I was like, you know, I was always quite bright at school. My parents were teachers. I didn't go to university. I left school with a few O levels, shows my age. And I thought, I just feel like I haven't done anything. I mean, I look back differently now. I realize music is beautiful therapy for people because it's beautiful therapy for me, and I should respect it. But at the time, I didn't feel like that. I felt I've done nothing for society. Yeah. So I ended up going back to doing A levels, which I did in a year. And then I did a degree, which I fast tracked over 3 years. And I got a teaching qualification. I tried teaching in schools, but as you can imagine, you know, when you've done music for 20 years and someone barks an order at you. That's not happening. So I couldn't work in schools. I can't take orders from people, no one. You can ask me nicely and I'll probably say yes, but if you tell me, I'll probably say no, because that's how I am, and I'm the same with other people. And I brought that into my teaching, because what I did was I tried schools out for that reason. I couldn't handle them. But I thought, but I'm still very academic, I've got a lot to give intellectually, so I've got to do something. So I started up a little tutoring business that just ballooned, and so now I'm tutoring nearly every day, and I don't really need to it's not for money. I do it because I just enjoy getting young people qualifications. I've got kids of my own now. One of them's grown up, the other's in year 11 now, and I just really enjoy that buzz. It's a buzz, right? To in August, where all your pupils are passed. I've had like 3 failures in 12 years of doing it, and
right,
that was kind of their fault. Not working hard enough, right? But I really enjoy it, and I really enjoy the fact, I know this sounds terrible, but I really enjoy the fact that I'm doing that to the school system by passing pupils they would fail because their methods are rubbish and mine aren't.
yeah.
So there's a lot of satisfaction in it, but when one pupil did a video call to me this summer, who was really struggling with writing when he came to me, and he got a grade C in his exam because he's still in Wales, so they do C's and B's, and he got a grade C, and he phoned me up, and I was nearly welling up, because it meant the world to him that he passed. He didn't think, everyone at school told him, you're not going to pass, you'll have to do a resit next year. And I said, well, we'll just see about that. And we got him the pass, and he worked so hard for it. So I'm older now. That's the kind of stuff that you can take to your grave, because it's worth having.
Well, yeah, I mean that's awesome. But what I'm going to try and do,
go on,
I'll see if I can remember, and I'll see if I've got the wherewithal to do it.
Right.
When I do my 5-hour set, I'm sure I'm going to be playing Global Phases. I'll film the crowd just so you can see what you did for society there as well.
That's thank you.
I'll send it to you. Yeah.
You know what? Because what I've noticed is, again, I do make a rod for my own back because I'm quite opinionated, and that's fine. I mean, at the end of the day, look at the future of music. To me, is like some sort of surreal episode of Clueless, with like a bunch of shares and ties running around with MP3s and OnlyFans clothing, and no more interest in music than Putin's got in world peace, and it's like, so I can't help myself when I see these, oh, look at me, I'm super, 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 look, I must get my boobs out. It just drives me nuts. I'm like, that's ridiculous. You're like, and I've got a controller of sorts. I've got an RX3, which is the same as a Pioneer, the proper setup, but because I have to. But at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, well, DJing's a lot easier now. That's a fact, right? In many respects, you're never going to have to worry about mixing beats. But there's all sorts of other things you can do with this technology, and I'm sure that a lot of the old school DJs actually do that with the technology. They turn up, they've worked out how to do little backspins and do loops and put samples in and be creative, which you can do with this stuff. But these people that do Tomorrowland and, these bloody models that turn up with their little MP3 stick and put it in, they're putting pre-recorded sets on. I'm like, what is that? But anyway, so I do get a lot of that. So now that you say about playing that and filming the crowd, it'd be quite nice, because there's too much negativity. And when I say negativity, what I mean is, it's like, it is incumbent upon enough people to turn around and call out the nonsense, right? Yeah. Because this scene was built on the underground. It wasn't built in a super club. It wasn't built in the West End of London at a ritzy club, with cocktail hours. It was, and people wearing trousers. It was built from the underground, and now it's become this horrible corporate mess where promoters are buying in DJs, just because of what they look like, you know, like some kind of modeling show, men as well. And it's like this, I'm sorry, but this is so far removed from it. And you got to call it out. You know, you have to call this stuff out. If you don't call it out, what's the legacy that you're leaving it? And some older DJ, and I won't name him, had the nerve to send me a message and have a go because I criticised one of these DJ. As it turned out, I was wrong and I apologise. But that's not the point. The point is he turned up and had a go, and I'm like, dude, you know, you should be defending that, you know, my point. I might have got the wrong person, but that's not the point. You should be defending the point that these people that are coming into the scene, and actually I would be correcting this because that person didn't have any reverence, right? They should have some reverence for the people that created it, right? The same as I wouldn't dream of thinking that this started in the 90s, right? Or even the late 80s. This didn't start then. This really started with electro hip hop revolution in the early 80s. That's where this comes from, right? Because that was the point at which people went, I've had enough of mainstream clubs. Why don't we do our own stuff? You know, and then you got roadblock parties and you know, in New York and stuff. This comes from somewhere way back, and you have to respect those people. So when somebody says to me, you know, who are your idols? I'm probably more likely to turn around and say, well, you know what? I'll probably go with DJ WizKid. And everyone will go, huh? Who's that? And I go, well, he was on Tommy Boy Records at the same time as Africa Bambaataa and Soul Sonic Force, part of the electro thing, scratch DJ like you've never seen in your life, right? Those are the people that I go back to, because the rave scene came slightly after my sort of early clubbing days, really.
Right, yeah.
So I do think it's important to care, you know, because I care about music. I don't care about drugs. I don't care about all the periphery, the money, the fame, the magazines, any of that rubbish, right? The only thing that matters to me is music. Every single week, I was doing it this morning, I go on to Beatport. At the moment, I like progressive house, have done for about 4 years now. I go in there and I listen to 300 records every single week and buy maybe 5 or 6 or save 5 or 6. I do that every week because I love music. But then I go on Spotify and listen to, try and catch up with all these bands that I'd forgotten about. It's all influences. Everything is, you know, great people have trodden the boards long before me, you know, and you should respect that as a musician.
Yeah, you're right. Well, talking about that, moving forward, the artist name In Space We Dance, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And then the album's The Frontier.
That's it. Yeah, correct. Yep. You're well researched.
So, yes. Well, I'm halfway through it. At the minute, I'm literally sort of bouncing around and trying to catch things in the car while I'm driving, but I've got, you know, podcasts that I have to listen to and things.
I get it.
I've not
I know.
managed to listen to it all, but what I've heard so far, I mean, it's very different to what I expected, because obviously, you know, when I think of your stuff, and you warned me, you said it's not like it's not Jon the Dentist.
No.
But yeah, it's definitely an interesting listen. So how did all that sort of come about?
That came about because a couple of things happened there. The first thing was that I went off trance, modern trance, because I've tried to keep up with new music. I went off trance massively about 4 years ago. It just started to sound oof. You know, I can't stand the fact that all I can hear in trance is a kick drum and every other instrument compressed into a little compartment. And, you know, it's just some boom, boom, every single track. And I was like, oh my God, I can't listen to this, you know. And I thought there must be something out there, because I know I love dance music. I like that kind of groove. And so I thought, right. So I started listening to all these different genres, and I chanced upon modern progressive house. I call it that because I don't think it's like the stuff really that Digweed and Sasha did back in the 90s. It's very different. It's more trance really. But I sort of chanced upon it. You know, artists like Dowden, 40 Cats, Hobin Rude, Fernando Alea, various other artists who make this, and a label called Mango Alley is really good. And I was listening to this going, this is beautiful. It's like they've got the kick drum is under there somewhere. It's got lots of weight, but it's just carrying everything. It's just sort of sitting on it. It's not cutting through. And also, there's all these wonderful little grooves. And the sound, when you close your eyes, you've got a dome of sound around you with good progressive house. You've got lots of instrumentation, lots of incidental sounds. It's kind of, I just thought that's where the In Space We Dance came from. So I was like thinking, you know, if we were in space, in the future, I'd be listening to this music because it's futuristic. It is by far the most of all the genres of dance music, and I listen to all of them, aside from drum and bass, which I've already cited. I mean, I recently did a new Metalheads collection. Their stuff's amazing. But aside from that, it's the only, let's say, 4/4 genre that I thought was pushing any boundaries, that was doing something different, that actually you could listen to it, but you could also dance to it, had a bit of both. And the sort of nadir of that happened in 2022 when I did the Legacy Festival for Bonsai. And my good friend Manu Riga was playing. And I don't think I'd even heard progressive house being played out at that point. I mean, no one had been going out for a couple of years because of COVID anyway. And I just was on a dance floor for an hour and a half listening to Manu. I couldn't move. My mate was going off bringing me drinks. I was like, it was 1988, and I was like, oh, this is great. Tune after tune, spacey, just strings, and I love it because it's just gone in a direction. So I went on from that. I was like, right, so if I can listen to this dance music and get, you know, it takes me somewhere, right? What other music is out there? So I started listening. I went back to all the 80s stuff. I revisited all my Depeche Mode collection. Had to do it on Spotify because the vinyl's no good. I haven't got a record player. so I listened to like all their stuff. Then I was like, oh, Japan, I remember them. Oh, John Fox. Oh, Gary Numan. You know, and I started listening to all this stuff from that period, even early Duran Duran. And I was like, this stuff is so ahead of the game, you know, ahead of its time. It's, you know, it's, and that's how the whole In Space We Dance thing sort of morphed into, do you know what I really want to do? I want to make scores. I want to make electronic music like someone, because Vangelis is my all-time favorite composer. He's unbelievable, was. And so I thought, I want to do something like that. You know, I want to be free of having to create music so someone can put it out on their label. You know, oh yeah, well it hasn't got the kicks, got the freak. It's like, oh please, right? So I was like, I've had enough of that. I don't want any part of it. I'm not part of this new scene anyway. I don't play at these, you know, festivals for the youngsters and whatever. So I was like, I want to do something completely different. And I want to be able to, like I've got with a couple of Vince Clarke albums, I want to be able to lie down at night, put it on my phone on a quiet level and just drift off to it, you know. And I want to make music like that. And so that's how it came about. But I'm not going to lie, I'm going to be pushing this album. We're going to put it on Spotify, Bandcamp. We're also going to put it on. My partner would, you know, Nick, he would be mortified if I said I can't remember the name of the company that puts film scores and stuff up that people come to. So we're going to go on to that. But I would really, I just, when I listen to that, and I've listened to it quite a lot, obviously, I do think it would sit really nicely in a game, you know, one of those sort of like story type games, dystopian, you know, that kind of thing. And I think that's kind of what I really want to do, you know, if I'm honest. I want to put the music to visuals rather than to a dance floor, because I'm too old for dance floors now, really, if I'm honest. And you know, that's not really what I want to do. That's how it came about.
Right. Oh, well, it's definitely worth a listen to anyone that's listening to this. In fact, I think Matt, would we be able to link to the SoundCloud? We'll if that's okay. If we
what we'll do is we're in the process of getting it up onto Spotify, so then people can listen to the individual tracks, and we'll have the continuous mix on there. Also, it'll go on Bandcamp as well. So once we've got it on Spotify, that's when I'll link you into it, because I think that would be better.
Yeah. All right.
Because
Well,
most people use that platform anyway.
Nice one.
And also I think you need the ability to be able to go through the tracks and listen to them separately. But yeah, it's very much a listening experience. It's not but you know,
for sure.
I think it would really appeal to people that are into electronic dance music, because that's essentially, it is electronic synth music. It's not
Yeah.
you know, I'm sort of influenced more by probably Vangelis than anybody, and Depeche Mode, I suppose, you know. So yeah, it's a good listening album.
Yeah. Awesome, mate. Well, I mean, that's I guess taking us right from the 80s through to what's not even come out yet. So it's probably we've top and tailed it there.
Yeah, and I'm now now that I've got this Omnisphere and my my big list of different sounds.
Yep.
Goes on for 6 pages. I'm trying to think about what I want to do next, and I haven't quite decided. I think I want to see what happens to the Frontier, because it may well transpire that my next project is for a game or someone's, you know, thematic for something. So
yeah,
I think I'll just hold 10. It took a year to record the Frontier. You know, this was like it's had a few iterations. I had it as out of the machine for a while, and then I pulled that because it wasn't quite. It was still a bit dancey, you know. But it's taken a year to do this, so I'm a bit drained of, like, you know, actually writing some music. I probably need like a month off, really.
Yeah, just recoup, recharge, and then
go and stroke my cat who's upstairs being a grouch, unlike your dog. It's just cats, though, isn't it? It's like, oh, you fed me, thanks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just walk off with the tail in the air, showing you their arsehole.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, have a look at this little chocolate starfish on my way out. That's all yours. Thanks.
Well, Jon, thanks for your time, mate. It's been you know, a real pleasure getting to know your story. And like I said, you're a friend of Quinn's, so I knew you'd be a good guy. So
yeah, like, I've only got one head, and I think I even barely swore. I barely swore. I'm there for the housewives.
Well, mate, I will do my best to remember and record that video and send it to you. Brilliant, because I think it'd be nice for you to see.
I'll send you Amoon's version of Global
Yes,
Faces.
please do. Yeah,
marvelous.
Yeah, excellent, nice one. All right, mate. Well, until next time, we'll see you soon. Take care. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, buddy. Cheers.
Cheers.
You are listening to Hard House History with Paul Glazby.